Why did I think it was a good idea to wear a long sleeve shirt and a fuzzy ass jacket in these lights? I'm like dying. Alright, so today for Foundation Friday, we're actually going to be talking about concealer. I just wrapped up 15 days of foundation, and the wrap-up video where I'm going to be ranking all the foundations and everything is coming on Monday. So skipping the foundation related videos today, and we're going to be doing that on Monday. And then next Friday we will be back to normal foundation reviews every single Friday on my channel. By the way, I totally overlined my lips today, so no, I did not get filler or anything. I just went a little cray. So I wanted to talk about concealer today because there have been so freaking many new concealer launches lately. This is like the season of concealers. I have been trying these things out. I don't think I've used my normal concealers, like the ones I usually reach for, in weeks because new concealers have just been coming in and I've been trying them out. So some of these I've been trying for weeks now. A couple of them are a little bit newer, but we're going to be going over 8 concealers today. There's some drugstore concealers in here, some high-end ones. They're kind of all over the place. And actually all of these concealers are also cruelty-free. That's a win. But I've gathered my thoughts. I have some notes here. We're going to go over the price point, the formula, coverage, everything, what I like about them, what I don't like about them. I'm also going to show you swatches. I have the lightest shades in each one of these concealers. So here we go. So if you're excited for this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, you can join the Bayrito family and subscribe. I upload Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. All right, let's get into it. Let me get my notebook out here. P.S. How exciting is this notebook? So the first new concealer we're going to talk about is the Milk Makeup Flex Concealer. This product retails for $28 and you get 0.2 ounces of product. It comes in 8 shades. I kind of always compare concealer sizes to the Tarte Shape Tape because this guy is a beast of a concealer. You get 0.33 ounces of product in the Tarte Shape Tape, which I've found comparing these and other concealers that's a lot of concealer. So Tarte Shape Tape retails for $27, but you get a shit ton of product in Tarte Shape Tape. So again, Milk Makeup's $28 and you get 0.2. So looking at the packaging, I thought this was going to be a squeeze tube, but you actually get a doe foot applicator on here. The lightest shade is Fair, which is quite dark. This one would more be a concealer shade if you have light to medium skin tone. If you have a fair complexion, this is going to be way too dark for you. So most of you have probably already seen me apply concealer before. You know what my under eyes look like, but I do have darkness and I also have freckles underneath my eyes. So I get a pretty good idea of what the coverage is like because of that. If it covers my freckles for the most part, I know it's full coverage. And if it covers my darkness, if my freckles are still totally coming through and my darkness is still coming through, obviously gives me kind of a gauge for how the coverage is. So this one I would say is medium coverage. I don't think this is full coverage. It is very creamy, and almost to the point where it's too creamy for me because it's really difficult to set down and it almost just creases instantly. If you don't have issues with your under eyes creasing and you like medium coverage and you have very dry under eyes, I think you might like this one, but only for that person. This creased way too much on me. I do like some medium coverage concealers, one of which I'll talk about, but just the formula of this, I definitely would reach for other ones over this one just for myself. So the second one is the Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Ultra Longwear Concealer. Retails for $28. It has 0.23 ounces of product, so a tiny bit more than the Milk one for the same price, and it comes in 12 shades. This was one of those concealers that as soon as I put this on for the first time, and I've been testing this one the longest out of all these concealers, I felt like there was something special about this formula. It feels so moisturizing, but almost like a gel concealer, but it sets down. It's very moisturizing, but in a gel concealer type of way. This isn't a super creamy concealer. The thing I love about this one is that it moisturizes my under eyes and it helps out with creasing so much, whether this is used on its own or mixed with other concealers. And I'll tell you how I like to mix this in a second. On its own, it is medium coverage. This is not a full coverage concealer by any means. I also like how this one has a little bit of radiance to it, not where it looks dewy, it just looks almost like a satin finish, has a really pretty look to it. This one looks great on its own if you just want something super natural, like on a natural makeup day. If I'm doing a full face look, this isn't quite enough coverage for me, so I do like to mix it in. And the best way I found to mix this, also the shades in these are both too dark for me. I have both the shades 1N and 1C, but more often than not, I'll reach for 1N if I'm mixing it in with Tarte Tarte Shape Tape. I can always brighten up my concealer with under eye powders, which I'll talk about in a second. The way that works really well for me applying this is putting this concealer on first, all underneath my eyes, and then just using a tiny dab of Tarte Shape Tape right towards the inner corner where I need that extra coverage and brightness. And I'll just blend them out together with my Morphe G38 brush, and this makes the Tarte Shape Tape look so much more hydrating and smooth and less creasy underneath my eyes. This is just a bomb concealer. If you have issues with creasing, I think this one would also probably be great on more mature skin. I do have a lot of lines underneath my eyes where I typically always get creasing. It is nearly impossible for me to avoid complete under eye creasing because I have lines there, so naturally, even when I'm not wearing makeup, you can see the lines there. This concealer, I feel like, definitely makes them look so much better than a lot of other concealers I've tried. So the next concealer is one that I actually had no plans of purchasing at all. The thing that first caught my interest was the brightening powder. This is the KKW Kim Kardashian's beauty line. The brightening powder, that's what I first wanted to get. And then while I was on the site, I was like, well, while I'm here, might as well pick up the concealer. So I bought these with my own money. I'm not on KKW's PR list or anything. So I picked up the shade 1 in the concealer, and then I got the lightest shade 1 of the brightening powder. I'm going to talk about the brightening powder a little bit more in a second, but let's first hit on the concealer. This is actually too light for me, which is great for using as a mixing concealer. So the KKW concealer retails for $18, but you only get 0.16 ounces of product. So if you're comparing the price per ounce with these other concealers, this thing is friggin' pricey. It seems like it's a better deal because it's only $18, but you're actually getting so much less product. This concealer comes in 16 shades. So I've used this for a few days in a row now, mixed in and on its own. On its own, you get pretty dang good coverage. I would call this full coverage. It feels very thin and it sets almost immediately. This has a totally matte finish. This is one that you want to do one eye at a time because if you go in and put on both eyes, it's going to be fully set before you can even blend it out. So definitely work one eye at a time on this one, but it looks pretty good underneath my eyes. I don't get a ton of creasing with this one. It's cool because it feels pretty lightweight, but it's also full coverage. Doe Foot applicator on here I really like. It reminds me of the Urban Decay Naked Skin. It has that kind of flexible oval shaped tip. I have it on right now mixed in with another one I'm going to talk about, the Flower Beauty Light Illusion. So I like this one. I'm going to order actually a couple more shades to try and match what my under eyes should be. The only thing I don't agree with on the claims on here is that it says it's hydrating. I wouldn't call this a hydrating concealer at all. It doesn't make my under eyes feel especially hydrated or anything. It doesn't make my eyes look more dry, and it doesn't emphasize creasing. So that's good. I just wouldn't describe this as like a moisturizing, hydrating concealer. It was good enough for me that I want to order more shades. So while we're on the KKW topic, I wanted to touch on the brightening powder because that's why I was shopping on there in the first place. By the way, I own I own Kylie lip kits, but I'm pretty sure that's the only thing I purchased from Kim and Kylie's lines. Like, I'm not a big KKW or Kylie diehard person. I just was intrigued by these products, so I purchased them. But this brightening powder, let's talk about it because I am so pleasantly surprised by this. If I can get this open, I hate this packaging. There's something about this container that I struggle with every single time I try to open it. Pan size is friggin' tiny on this. So this retails for $18. You get 0.127, so about 0.13 ounces of product in here. I think the closest thing to compare this to that this product kind of reminds me of is the MAC Emphasize powder. I have the pan, and the pan alone without the packaging, just the pan refill, retails for $17, but you get 0.21 ounces of product. So a little bit less than double the product for $1 cheaper. So you really do not get a whole lot of product in here at all. I kind of understand, but also like give me more product. You know what I'm saying? I understand the sense because it's an under eye powder and they think people are going to be using like small brushes and stuff. So maybe that's why, but it just looks like an eyeshadow and it almost makes me not want to use it because I feel like I'm going to run out of this super quickly. But I want to talk about the formula of this and everything because I'm going to be talking about it used with other concealers. I am so pleasantly surprised by this powder because, as you guys know, I have weird skin issues with powder, especially under eye setting powder. I have my basically 3 go-to powders, 2 of them by Physicians Formula, one of them more recently discovered on the Wish app, the Maycheer pressed powder. Very tricky to find an under eye powder that works for my under eyes. And this one does, and it looks friggin' beautiful. I have it on right now. It almost gives you a satin, like a satin matte finish. It looks very softening. Wow, I just looked straight into that ring light. Are we here? What year is it? it friggin' brightens. I almost feel like I want to get the shade up in this too and kind of mix the two shades. But if you have fair skin and you like a really bright under eye, this powder is beautiful. And their website, it says translucent. This is not translucent at all. I think this is why I like it so much, because it's nowhere near translucent. It definitely has color to it. Oh, there we go. Little swatcheroo. Here's Emphasize right here, and here's the KKW one. Why do I keep looking straight into the ring light? It's like when you know you can't look at something, so you just stare at it anyways. Moving on to the Model's Own Cover It Full Coverage Concealer. I have the lightest shade 01. This concealer only comes in 4 shades. This concealer retails for $7.99 on Ulta's website, and you get 0.28 ounces of product. So this is actually hella cheap. You get a ton of product in here for $8. I'm not a big fan of squeeze tube concealers because then you have to squeeze it out, tap it on, either blend it out with your brush or blend it out with your finger. I just prefer doe foot applicators. If there's a concealer like this sitting on my table and then one with the doe foot applicator, 99% of the time I'll reach for the one with the other applicator. You know what I'm saying? So the shade of this one for me is good. I actually tried this out in a first impressions video, but I used it on top of another concealer I'm going to mention, the Makeup Revolution one, which I did not like, but we'll get into that. That gave kind of a different effect than when I started using this on its own. When I started using this on its own, what I found for me with this one is that you need a tiny bit, a little bit goes a really long way. It's very odd. When I first put it on, it looks like it's going to be super full coverage. As soon as I start blending it out and kind of tapping it into my skin, I've tried it with the brush and with my finger, it almost gathers a little bit and the coverage disappears a little bit. It goes down to like a medium coverage. I can still see a lot coming through, and it doesn't look nearly as full coverage as when I first start blending it out. This one also creases like crazy on me. It's a little bit too creamy, and I find with concealers like that, even if I wait a couple minutes to kind of let them set in a little bit before applying a powder, or if I try it just straight away applying powder, it just is too emollient almost, and it just creases a shit ton on me. So for those reasons, this one is a pass for me. Next one is the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Full Coverage Concealer. This concealer retails for $10 and you get 0.22 ounces of product in it, so pretty good deal. I actually wore this and showed you guys applying it in the Flower Beauty Light Illusion foundation during 15 days of foundation. I've tried it a bunch more since then, and I want to share my thoughts with you guys. So this one is one that is so freaking beautiful. The formula of this, it can just be very tricky to find a good powder that goes along with it, at least on my skin. When you first put this on, it has this beautiful, lightweight, but full coverage, radiant kind of look to it. I would say this one has kind of a satin matte finish when it dries down. When you first put it on, it looks really radiant, and then once it kind of sets a little bit and dries down, it looks a little bit more satin matte. It's just a beautiful formula. The shade situation needs some help. There's also only 4 shades in this concealer, and I have the lightest shade, which is Fair. This one I either have to lighten up with a face powder or lighten it up with another concealer. Undertone of this I like. It's very neutral, so I don't find it to be too difficult to work with for that reason. It's not like super yellow or super pink or anything. Like I said, it's been kind of hit or miss with powders for me with this one. I can't use my normal setting powders with this concealer. By the way, I'll have those linked down below, what I usually use, but I don't use that with this one because it just looks like heavy crease city and it just ruins the concealer underneath. The best powder I found to set this one is the Flower Beauty, not the Flower Beauty, what is this called? The KKW powder that, again, I can't open. This one with the Flower Beauty, beautiful. So if you can find a powder combo that works well for you with this one, and if you can find a shade out of 4 shades that you can somehow make work for your skin tone, then I think this one is worth giving a go. But Flower Beauty, can we get some more shades, please? 4 shades. 4 shades. So next up is one that I think is the worst, like you're getting the least for your money with this one, and it's a little bit ridiculous. This is the Bare Minerals Bare Pro Concealer. This is a stick concealer, so it just twists up like a little lipstick. I have the shades Fair Cool 01 and Fair Light Warm 02. I'm definitely the shade Fair Cool 01, and that shade can work for me. So this one costs $24. You get 0.09 ounces of product. Let's just twist this up and see how much that looks like. There, that's it. So that's all the way up. This is the concealer that you get. And if you're using that on a regular basis, I don't know, you'd probably go through that hella fast. So that is pricey for $24 and that amount of product. this would have to be like the best concealer on planet Earth for me to want to purchase it at that price. This one comes in 15 shades. When I actually put it on and I'm blending it out, I like it. It's just the creasing that gets me on this one. This one gives me massive creasing, but for a stick concealer, it actually blends out really easily. It gives pretty good coverage. It is supposed to be full coverage. I feel like it's pretty close to full coverage, probably like a low full coverage. It's supposed to last 16 hours, they say. You know, maybe it's just my under eyes, but this looks crappy after about an hour on my under eyes. I've tried it on kind of more natural makeup days too, because I was like, maybe this is one that I just need to apply literally the tiniest amount and just like blend it out and not put on a full-on under eye, but same thing happened. It just does not look good underneath my eyes. So hard pass on this one for me, especially for that price point. All right, next up is one that people seem to either be like head over heels for, or they absolutely hate this one. This is the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Full Coverage Concealer and Contour. This product retails for $7 and you get 0.11 ounces of product, so you don't get a whole lot of product, but it's also only $7. It comes in 18 shades, which is the best shade range out of all of these that I'm mentioning, so props to them, that's great. So I tried this in a first impressions video. I've tried to make it work since then, and I really did not like it in the first impressions video, and I've found a way that I can make it look better at the point where it doesn't look like total shitsies, but it doesn't still look good enough to where I would reach for this over other concealers. I don't think this is full coverage at all. On my under eyes, it does not look like full coverage. I have also tried this just straight up on my scarring to kind of use as a spot concealer to see if it would cover that, and it didn't cover my scarring. So I don't think this one is full coverage, but the way that I like it better than how I was initially applying it is the only way this one can look decent on my under eyes is if I actually put on my foundation and then I kind of clean off like with a makeup remover underneath my eyes so that the concealer is going on top of my skin instead of on top of a foundation. And I feel like that has made the biggest difference. If you have any concealers that aren't working for you, try that, because sometimes it's just too many layers of product that you're putting it on top of. So with this one, that actually works better for me, but again, it's not to the point where it looks good enough where I want to reach for this one. So the last concealer is by EX1, and I've done a foundation review on one of their foundations before. The concealer that they just came out with is the Elite Concealer Full Cover, and it comes in kind of like a MAC Pro Longwear concealer. It looks exactly like that, and you have a little pump. This one, ooh, I was not a fan of. This one retails for $17 and you get 0.27 ounces of product, so you do get a lot of product in here for only 17 bucks. So that's great. It comes in 13 shades. I have the lightest shade, which is 1.0. And the lightest shade is not very light at all. Kind of a similar thing happens to me with this one that happens with the Model's Own one, where you put it on, it spreads easily, you think it's going to be good, it's looking like full coverage, and then you kind of blend it out, and then the same thing, it kind of like just gathers weird and doesn't look like as opaque of coverage as I was expecting with the full coverage concealer. So it almost is like medium coverage to me once you blend it out. It doesn't sit the best underneath my eyes. This one feels actually pretty similar to the Model's Own one too, in the sense that it is very creamy, but this one is a tiny bit less sticky. I just would definitely go with other ones over this EX1 one. So those were the 8 concealers. I wanted to just 2-second touch on these 2 products because these are new shades while we're talking about concealers, and a bunch of you guys have asked me what I think of the new shades, the new light shades of the Maybelline Fit Me, and also the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer. So these 2 formulas are actually some of my favorite concealer formulas, so I was stoked when they were announcing that they were coming out with lighter shades. So I have the lightest shade 5, and then I have the lightest shade in this one, which is Ivory. So they recently launched more shades, deeper and lighter, and both of these are very yellow. So I actually can't use these ones on their own. The lightness is right, it's just the undertone and the yellow that is so off for my skin tone. If you have more of a yellow undertone or you like the look of bright, kind of more yellow under eyes, then you would probably like these shades, but for me, the shades don't work at all. I actually prefer having the darker ones, the old shades, and then lightening it with the powder because they just look way better. They just don't work on my skin tone, which is unfortunate, so I'm going to keep sticking with the shade 15 in this one. 15 is lighter than 10, so I always use 15 in Maybelline Fit Me, and then I use the old shade, I think it was Fair. The old lightest shade was called Fair whatever it was. That one I still use over this one. The ColourPop concealer, I'm super excited to try. I need to purchase those. I don't have those in my hands yet, but I'm really excited to try because they just launched a shit ton more shades and they have a white one. So I'm definitely going to pick up a few shades of the ColourPop concealer. I'll let you guys know what I think of that in a different video, but let me know if you've tried the ColourPop concealer, what you think of it down below, or if you've tried any of these. I think out of these 8 new releases that I focused on, I'm most excited about the Laura Mercier, again, for mixing or if you like medium coverage. And then my second one would probably be the Flower Beauty, and then the KKW for mixing and the powder. If you wanted the makeup on the rest of my face, I'm gonna quickly tell you right now. I'm trying out a combo for 15 days of foundation, so I mixed the Becca Aqua Luminous foundation with Cover FX Custom Cover Drops, set my whole face with the Sephora Micro Smooth Powder. For eyeshadows, use a palette that I'm still trying to figure out what the heck I think of this thing, because as of right now, I'm pretty underwhelmed by it. This is the Viseart Neutral Matte palette, and then on my lid I actually used a ColourPop highlighter. This is the Luster Dust in the shade Just For Us. I just wet it with some Max Fix Plus and then put it on my lids. My lashes are the Kiss Gala lashes, one of my favorites right now. My bronzer, ooh, I like this bronzer a lot. The Laura Geller Sunrise Fair Beach Matte Bronzer. I think I got this off of Hot Look. Laura was on there the other day, and I picked up this bronzer shade, and so far I'm feeling it. I've used this a few times so far. We just have an eyelash chilling on Fenty right now, but for highlight, I used the Chic Freak Girl Next Door, this one right here. Such a pretty highlight. I cannot find the blush for the life of me right now, but I used the Laura Geller Swirl Blush. I want to say the shade was Cantaloupe, but I'll have it linked down below once I can find it. I need to clean this desk massively. And then my lips are MAC Burnt Spice. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to give this a thumbs up. I appreciate it. If you click the bell down below, you'll be notified when I upload. If you don't click the bell, you probably won't know if I upload because YouTube. Just click the bell. Don't forget the wrap-up videos coming on Monday. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.